Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review of Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 4, The Sons of the Harpy. This video is free of book spoilers, so if you haven't read the books, not to worry, no spoilers here. So, this episode begins with Ser Jorah knocking out some poor unsuspecting fisherman and stealing his boat. It's all good though, because he leaves him some money behind. I'm sure it just makes him feel more noble, but the guy still isn't going to be that happy about his boat being stolen. So then Jorah chucks Tyrion on the boat and sets off on his merry way. Next we go to a different boat where Jaime is on his way to Dorne. They see Tarth in the distance as they go past, and they play Brienne's theme music, so I guess that means that Jaime's getting all sentimental thinking about her. So then Jaime goes and has a chat with Bronn, who gives him a hard time about why he's going, which he only replies because he has to. I think Jaime feels obligated to Cersei to do this for after letting Tywin get killed. Also, I think in some part he does care for Myrcella as well and wants to protect her. I heard an interesting theory out there that Cersei had planted the snake's head in the box herself rather than actually being sent from Dorne, and that she did this in order to trick Jaime into going to Dorne to get Myrcella. I'm not quite sure if I buy that, but I wouldn't put it past her. Anyway, Bronn tells Jaime if he ever sees Tyrion again to give him his regards, to which Jaime replies if he ever sees Tyrion again, he'll split him in two, and then he'll give him his regards. Personally, I think it would be more effective if Jaime gave Tyrion Bronn's regards before he split him in two. But then again, it might seem like Bronn was the one who sent Jaime to kill him. Kind of like right before Roose Bolton killed Robb Stark, he said, "The Lannisters send their regards." So if he was like, Bronn sends his regard and then kills Tyrion, then it would seem like Bronn was behind the killing, which he isn't. So maybe giving the regards after is better. So next we go to King's Landing, where, boy, I sure do feel sorry for Mace Tyrell. He's quite a goofy fellow, isn't he? He makes a silly joke about how if the crown doesn't pay him back, he'll have words with his daughter, to which everyone is just stone-faced as hell. And then Cersei won't let him finish any of his sentences, and when he says he'll give Cersei's regards to the Titan of Braavos, Qyburn snickers, and I'm sure he's laughing at him and not with him. Poor Mace. Anyway, what's interesting about this scene is that the Iron Bank has called in their debts to the Crown. No doubt they've grown nervous since Tywin's death, and the Crown can't afford to pay them. When Mace Tyrell offers to lend the Crown the money, Cersei quickly turns him down. The last thing she wants is to be indebted to the Tyrells. She doesn't need to have them have more power over her. Tywin's original plan in making the alliance with the Tyrells was so that they could help pay the crown's debts. But Cersei is letting her hatred for them get in the way. So instead, she sends Mace Tyrell, accompanied by Sir Meereen Trant of the Kingsguard, to Braavos to negotiate with the Iron Bank. It seems unusual for the Master of Coin to travel with the Kingsguard. Mace Tyrell seems honored by this, but since we know Meereen Trant is firmly in the hands of Cersei, it makes me wonder if she sent him with him in order to kill him. I wonder. At any rate, I think Cersei mainly wants to get rid of Mace before she makes her next move against Margaery, because she doesn't want her to have any support. So next scene, we get Cersei talking to the High Sparrow, who does in fact appear to be the new High Septon. Cersei comes up with the brilliant idea to restore the Faith Militant, that is the arm of the, to arm the faith, so that basically the church has an armory, to which the High Sparrow replies that the Faith Militant hasn't existed for several centuries. Cersei then tells the High Sparrow that there is a great sinner in their midst, shielded by gold and privilege. So obviously she's talking about Loras, and thus her whole reasoning for cozying up to the High Sparrow is revealed. She wants to use them against the Tyrells. After the scene last week where Margaery, in subtext, basically kicked Cersei's ass and made it clear she was going to try to get rid of her, this is Cersei's countermove. So in the next scene, we get a montage of the Faith Militant going around kicking ass, smashing wine barrels, beating up people they think are sinners, none the least of which are patrons of a brothel, and they make a point of beating up, but they have particular hatred for the homosexuals as they appear to torture, perhaps even kill two men who were having sex with each other, which we see totally freaks out the brothel runner Oliver, who is a devout homosexual. So basically, they are the most extreme religious fundamentalists, but with an army who are given free range to force their morality on everyone else. The High Sparrow in his talks with Cersei seems like all humble and pure and out to help the little guy, but really, he's the leader of a group of religious fanatics who are no better than terrorists. So Lancel, with his new nifty tattoo, leads a group of faith militants to arrest Loras for his sins. So next we get a scene with Margaery charging in to yell at Tommen over her brother's arrest. The scene is really interesting because really, rarely do we see Margaery act like herself instead of, hide under this silly facade of being all demure and proper. But she's so upset over Loras' arrest she forgets herself. She tells Tommen that his mother is behind this, to which Tommen responds by asking if her and his mother aren't getting along. Oh, so you and my mom aren't getting along. Poor Tommen. Poor, sweet, naive Tommen. He's totally oblivious to the war his wife and mother are waging, and of course his naivete reminds Margaery of her mask, and she instantly brings up the sweet face again to try to get Tommen to free her brother. It was so funny how she instantly transformed back into the sweet, innocent little wife. So next, Tommen charges into his mother's room and demands she frees Loras, but Cersei plays Tommen just like Margaery did and pulls the whole, "Who, me? I had nothing to do with it. It was the Faith Militant. Well, it's all they're doing. Why don't you go talk to them?" But of course, that's horse crap. It is her doing. She doesn't want to release him, so she's going to play Tommen and make him think it wasn't her fault. It does make me wonder, though, why she would send her son to talk to the High Sparrow if she knew it would put him in harm's way. So anyway, Tommen goes with a group of Kingsguard and Lannister soldiers to visit the High Sparrow, but a group of Faith militants block his path. The Kingsguard ask him if he wants them to kill those that are blocking his path, while supporters of the Sparrows call him names like bastard and abomination. So they obviously believe the rumors that Tommen is the son of Cersei and Jaime. Anyway, Tommen, being the gentle soul he is, backs down and returns back to his castle. It's a good thing that Joffrey wasn't still alive. He would have just started a fight in an instant. He wouldn't have cared. So Tommen returns to Margaery and tells her what happened, and she's not at all happy about this and says she's going to send for her grandmother. So shit is going to get real. Lady Olenna really knows how to kick some ass. After all, she was the one behind the plot to kill Joffrey, and something tells me this game between Margaery versus Cersei is just beginning. Bringing Lady Olenna in is going to, step things up a bit, and something tells me Cersei has got a lot more plots up her sleeves as well. So the scene ends with Margaery withholding from Tommen, telling him she needs to be with her family. I'm wondering if she did this because he was unable to help her, so he's useless, or if it's a purposeful tactic to make Tommen more motivated to help her by withholding from him, or perhaps a combination of both. So next, we go up to the wall where Selyse is bitching, first about Jon Snow and then about her own daughter, Shireen. God, I hate her. She's so annoying. Luckily, Melisandre comes along and tells her to go away, and then asks Stannis if he'll be taking her with him to Winterfell for the battle, and then reminds him what happened last time he left her behind. But Stannis assures her that he will be bringing her along. Next, we see Jon Snow signing these papers, asking for more men for the Night's Watch, and when it comes time to sign a paper for Roose Bolton, he really doesn't want to, but Sam explains he has to because they need more men, so he reluctantly does it. Sam then leaves and Melisandre enters and gets naked and tries to seduce him. During this whole scene, I was just screaming, "No, Jon, no, no, don't do it!" She's a twisted, messed up witch. Don't go near that. He gives the excuse that he's in love with another, and I would have just said I don't mess around with crazy witches, but that's just me. And as Melisandre leaves, she gives the classic line, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," which of course shocked the hell out of Jon, as she obviously knew where that line came from. I gotta admit that part was awesome. So next we get this really sweet scene with Stannis and his daughter Meereen, where she tells him about how her mother didn't want her to come along, and asks if he's ashamed of her. His response is by telling her the story of how she got grayscale, which typically is a disease that kills every time, but he refused to listen to those saying he should just send her away, and sent for every healer around the world, who eventually cured her, because she is the Princess Meereen and his daughter, which of course made Meereen hug her father, who eventually returned the hug. I gotta say, this was a really sweet scene. I got a bit choked up on this one. This is the first time we really see Stannis, his human side, as he bonds with his daughter. The music that they played during the hug was an instrumental version of the song "It's Always Summer Under the Sea," that Meereen sang back in season 3 when we first met her. However, this is the third episode in a row that they brought up grayscale, which really has me thinking it's going to appear in the show, and it's going to appear sometime this season. So next we see Sansa in the crypts of Winterfell, where Littlefinger tells Sansa the story of how Rhaegar Targaryen gave his favor to Lyanna Stark instead of his wife, which was seen as a real no-no. Personally, I heard this story so many times from so many different sources already. I was sure they had told this story in the show already, but I guess they haven't. So then Littlefinger tells Sansa he's going to King's Landing, and she's not too happy about that. So Littlefinger reveals his plan to her, which apparently is that Stannis is going to attack Winterfell and most likely defeat the Boltons because he has a larger army. And then Stannis will then make Sansa the Wardeness of the North. And if Stannis doesn't defeat the Boltons, then the backup plan is for her to manipulate and control the Bolton boy. So if that really is Littlefinger's plan, and because he does care about Sansa, I'm certain that it is, this tells me that Littlefinger has no idea what kind of person Ramsay really is. Last week, when Littlefinger told Ramsay he knew nothing about him, I heard a lot of speculation that Littlefinger was lying because he always knows everything about everyone involved in one of his plans. But I really don't think that's the case, especially now, because if he really knew what kind of person Ramsay was, his backup plan wouldn't be for Sansa to manipulate him, or he'd at least warn her of what kind of monster he was. Because I strongly don't believe that he'd purposely put her in harm's way like that. And also, this doesn't strike me as a very good plan. If his plan is to deliver her to Stannis, then why bother with the Boltons at all? Why not just take her directly to Castle Black and deliver her directly to Stannis? I guess because he wanted to have a plan B, but plan B sucks, to be honest. So, Jaime and Bronn arrive in Dorne. They meet up with the Dornish patrol and get in a little scuffle. Bronn takes out most of them easily, and Jaime manages to take one out with a lot of trouble, by using his golden hand to grab the guy's sword, which is actually, he does this by accident, but just so happens to work out. So then they bury the bodies so no one will come looking for them. So next we see Ellaria Sand writing to the Sand Snakes to start making their plans to start a war by killing Myrcella. So we meet the Sand Snakes, Oberyn's bastard daughters, Nymeria, Obara, and Tyene. I heard a lot of complaints from reviewers that they looked really campy and silly, but they didn't seem campy to me. They seemed fine. I'm not sure what all the whining was about. Anyway, Obara reveals the captain of the ship that brought Jaime and Bronn to Dorne, and so they know that they're going to be on the lookout for them now. So then we go back to Tyrion and Jorah going on the boat, where Tyrion informs Jorah that he's going the wrong way if he wants to get to Cersei, and Jorah then informs him he's taking him to Daenerys. You know, I was simply amazed at how many people thought Jorah was taking Tyrion to Cersei. Even people who had read the books thought maybe Jorah was taking Tyrion to Cersei. I personally don't see how, there'd be any doubt he was taking him to Daenerys to present him as a gift to try to get on her good graces. When Tyrion informs him that it's not a very smart move and the move of a desperate man, Jorah doesn't take too kindly to that. So finally we get to Meereen, where we get yet more stories about Rhaegar Targaryen, this time about how he loved to sing. I wonder why we're getting all this talk about Rhaegar. Almost makes me think they might be foreshadowing something. In any case, Daenerys gives Barristan the day off and goes to her throne room to listen to his star whine more about how she should open the fighting pits, but she remains very much against it. Then we see the Sons of the Harpy gearing up for a big attack. They swoop by and kill a whole bunch of people, chilling out with some prostitutes. At first I didn't recognize who it was they were killing, but then I realized they were members of the Second Sons, which makes sense why they'd want to kill them. So then the Unsullied, having heard the commotion, charge in, and one of the prostitutes points them in the direction that they went. However, it is the same prostitute that helped kill White Rat in the very first episode this season. So basically, she's leading them right into a trap where a whole slew of Sons of Harpies corner and trap the Unsullied, who are severely outnumbered. So a big battle ensues, and eventually one of the Unsullied gets his mask knocked off so that we can see it is in fact Grey Worm who is fighting, and Grey Worm starts kicking some serious ass. So then we see other shots of the Sons of Harpy going through the city, killing Unsullied and starting fires and shit. Apparently this is part of a coordinated attack, and they're really doing some major damage here. The bell starts chiming, and Barristan happens to be nearby, so he swings into action. Meanwhile, Grey Worm ends up being the only Unsullied left standing in the trap, and there's still a bunch of Harpies left alive. They corner him and and stab him a few times, but before they can finish him off, Barristan shows up and starts kicking some serious ass. He manages to kill a whole bunch of them, but eventually he gets stabbed a couple of times, and just when the Harpy is about to slit his throat, Grey Worm kills the last of the Harpies. However, Barristan collapses to the ground looking pretty lifeless, and soon Grey Worm collapses after him. So, big question here. Is Grey Worm and Barristan dead? Before the season started, George R.R. Martin, the showrunners, and pretty much everyone attached to the show warned that some characters who are still alive in the books will die this season. Now, both Grey Worm and Barristan are still alive in the books, but it's possible these are the characters they were referring to, or at least some of the characters they were referring to. Now, it certainly looks like Barristan is dead, so if I had to bet, I'd say he's a goner. Grey Worm could perhaps still be alive, or perhaps he might just live long enough to say his goodbyes to Missandei and Daenerys before dying. Who knows? But if anyone survives this incident, I'd say it'd be him. At any rate, I'm really curious to see how Daenerys is going to handle this, because that was, a brutal, nasty attack. So she's going to have to respond in some way. What that way might be, I'm not sure. She's also going to be severely crippled with the loss of her two main advisors. If they both die, the only one left advising her is Daario, and he isn't exactly the most trustworthy person around. So my rating for the Sons of the Harpy is a 6. Good. I'd honestly say this is my least favorite episode of the season thus far. I know there were some exciting moments like the Sons of the Harpy attack and Jaime and Bronn scuffle in Dorne, and some cool scenes like Stannis making nice with Meereen and the Faith Militant starting to mess things up. But overall, I found that it was most of the episode to be either filler or setup, and not much actually happened in this episode. It was more of a cog in the machine. So that's it for my review of the Sons of the Harpy. If you have read the books, then you might want to check out the discussion video I'll be doing with Apkin Tomko later on in the week, which will be over on his channel. And be sure to check out my spoiler-free review for next week's episode. So make sure you subscribe to keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.